If you go into the Looker, so what is Looker? Looker is another reporting tool which Google has provided us, and it is on cloud. So this is not running on premise. That means like other reporting tools where we can download the where we can install the tool on the desktop or anywhere. Looker can always be accessed through browsers. And this gives us the functionality that it can be used from anywhere at any time. So what agendas can we have here? Introduction to Looker. And after that, it will be dimensions and measures. What are dimensions? What are measures? Analyzing data using Looker, working with pivots, table calculations, building dashboards, and also going forward, we'll look into all these topics covered in the chapters. So this is some desktop which looks like in Looker, which will be similar to other dashboard also, as you might have used in Power BI, Tableau, or ClickView. So there are different charts which can be represented based on data and based on the requirement of the client and based on the graph or information we want to present it to the customer. And please feel free to stop me anywhere when you have a doubt. Okay. So this is the interface of Looker. How does it look in the first page? So in the left hand side, if you see, we have an explore, and in the right hand side, we have the graphs, and below the graphs, we have the results. Results as in the data which has come out after pulling out the dimensions and measures. We'll look into what is dimensions and measures in the coming slides. So in the left hand side, when you see there are different tables or views which are called over here in Looker, which is inventory item and order items. So if you drill down into order items, you see some dimensions and you see some measures over here. And there is one more dimension, one more view over here called products. So when you see a description about it, dimensions are always in blue color in the left hand side, and measures are in orange, which is below measures over here, which is below dimensions. And in the right hand side, the table which we see in a table structure, data table, that's called data table. Above the data table, we have visualization. So this is the run button which help us to run the query behind the Looker, and we get the result on the visualization part. This is the edit wizard which help us to edit the graphs and do some modification as required. And this is the field picker. Field picker as in which all fields which we want to display on the graph, which it can be picked up from the field picker portion of the dashboard. So field picker will have what? Field picker will have views. Views are nothing but the tables or tables, one table or multiple tables behind it. And tables will have what? Tables will have dimensions and measures inside it, which is used to represent the dashboard. Any doubt till here, anyone?
No, I think.
Just one question. So I heard, I mean, to practice and to get hands-on, will you get any provision environment for that?
Yeah, I'll share the links and all. This is called Quick Labs Quick Labs links. So there you can do the exercises and we will do it all together. And there will be challenges lab also where you can practice based on questions.
Yeah, but in
Okay,
the
so
quick lab, we cannot extract any data, right?
No, you cannot extract any data, right?
Yeah,
Because
whatever they provide, that only we have to do, right? So if you want to
obviously,
extract, yeah.
if you have to extract the data, then you should have a licensed version.
Oh, if I want to extract like Excel data, CSV data, then need to purchase license, right?
Yeah, which your company will provide you. So extract data would be a big problem to learn, right? It's just we'll go through it. How do we extract the data? So
Yeah.
you cannot do a hands-on on the extract the data for sure. Yes.
And even we cannot to connect any DB also.
Right. So those constraints will be here, but I'll be providing you the links where you can watch videos and see how to do that. But in the real time, when you get a problem to work on that, you can work on that. That would be a problem.
Mhm. Yeah.
But in part over here in Looker session is to understand how does the Looker work, how do we work on LookML, what is
Yeah.
the benefits of using LookML and all. Those are most important topics if you go for any of the Looker or LookML interviews or career in Looker.
Okay.
For correction and all, if you face any problem, like I think you have sufficient documents on Looker websites and all, which will help you out. For concern on the little restrictions, since I also don't have my license person with me. I have it in my office, but I cannot share that link to anyone.
Yeah. Okay. Not an issue.
Yeah.
And how is the certification part? Is this training will be sufficient to clear that?
Yes, it will be covering Looker and LookML both. So the certification part is on LookML developer. And if you're going for it, you can go with the dump questions and all, which might be available on Udemy and all. So
Okay.
since we don't have much clarity on Looker and all, because most of the people don't go for Looker developer certifications because it's quite new and not used much right now, but it's quite going in demand in nowadays. And it has picked up a good demand in the market right now. So people are going for certification. So if you find any dump for it, then it will be good, helpful because since it is new and people has not attempted this before, might be a little risky, but everything will be covered over here, which will help you to pass out the exam.
So this is the only certification we have, right? Nothing else.
LookML developer certification. There is only one certification for Looker. Identify what questions need to be answered using data. So what does this mean? We define questions. Whenever we get a project on Looker or any of the interaction with the client, what question do we ask first? Identify what is the question needed to be answered using data. So if you get any client request to create a dashboard for the client requirement, so first question is what you will ask them is first thing which comes in your mind should be what is the customer requirement, right? What is the business about? Whenever if you don't know about what is the business about, what does the data says about the business, you won't be able to plot a graph or make a sense out of it. So the first question you should know is what are the questions that we need to answer through this data so that you can create a dashboard on top of that. And then it's identifying data required. So whenever we have to solve any problem, we should know if we have to find a formula for simple interest, we should know rate, we should know principal and all, right? So this is the main data behind calculating simple interest. So for answering any of the question for data, you should know what is the proper measures and dimensions running behind it so that you can create a dashboard on top of that or create an insight on top of that. And the third step is analyze the data, explore dimension and measure relationship via data tables and visualization. So I guess everybody might be aware of joins and all, which is used in SQL or any of the dashboards also.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is about analyzing data through multiple sources. Since it is the data warehouse, uh, like most of the company works on data warehouse concepts and all, that means data might be stored in different tables and all. If you might have heard of fact tables and dimension tables, so we have to extract data through multiple tables which require joins or merging to a multiple call tables from different columns. And then what we do is interpreted results, fetch actionable information from the data analyzed. So when the data is fetched from multiple sources, we have to just create an interpret results. That means we have to just create a visualization on top of that, which is more appropriate and which makes out sense to it. So that the business user in front of you or the higher person inside the company don't need to see the data, but they can visualize the graph and make a sense out of it. Any doubt till now?
Yeah. I have a doubt on. So, like I have the three models, right? Data model A, B,
Okay.
C, and
Mhm.
I want to be append A and B data model in the front end.
Okay.
So I don't want
Okay.
to go by the LookML. So then how can I
Mhm.
do that? Only we can see the merge option, right? So merge is it is acting as a left outer join. So I want to merge an inner join. Then how can we do that?
That we are not doing it right now. Like we'll do that in the coming sessions. So this question is regarding like, do you have any questions in the slide?
No, but this is what you said about the joins, right? So that's why I'm asking.
That we will be doing it. That we will do when coming chapters comes in the slides.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And you said it correct. Like in LookML, it is easy to go behind the LookML and we can do the joins, right outer join, left outer join, or inner join. But in the
Yeah.
front end, we join it using the merge.
Mhm.
So we'll
Okay.
see how we tackle that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fine.
Uh, Core concepts of Looker is there are four main concepts exploring data in Looker, which is dimensions, measures, filters, and pivots. So what is dimension? These are the columns of your data which may be physically exist as column in the database or logical, such as calculated or transaction. So some actual data. So dimensions are nothing but those are the string columns which you can say or non-numeric columns in your database which cannot be summed up is called dimensions. So what are measures? Measures are calculated or aggregation across one or many rows such as sum, minimum, max or averages. So these are numerical columns which can be aggregated or calculated across one or more rows. Those are called measures in your table or view. What is filters? Limit for your data which behave differently when you filter a dimension versus a measures. So filters are nothing but you can create a filter or create a restriction on the data which is pulled on your dashboard by using a filter command, which is similar to like where clause in the SQL queries. So what is pivot? A way of turning a dimension into several columns, allowing for exploring across multiple distinct groups. So pivot is nothing but the same like how we do it in Excel, converting rows into columns and columns into rows. Going forward. So what is dimension? If we see a practice data set over here, we have a table which has few columns called fruit types, color is round, price per pound, weight and price. So fruit type is apples. Fruit type is something which will have different fruits in it. Color is something which will have records as different colors of the fruits. Is round. So is round is a column, logical column, which will say yes or no. Price per pound is like price of the fruit on pound basis, and weight is like how much is the weight of the fruit, and the price is how much is the price based on weight. So this is the data set which we have right now. And if you want to measure the if you want to see out what is the dimension, the columns of the table. So what if I want to say what type of fruits are there in the basket? So what will I do? So I will pull out a column called dimension, which is fruit types. So whenever I pull out a dimension of fruit types from fruit basket view, choosing fruit type dimension will return out you a unique name for the fruit names from the table. So this is very important to remember over here. It will give you the unique names of the column, not all the values from the column, but unique values from the column. So what colors are represented by the fruits in the basket? How do you answer this question? By using the dimension called color. So whenever we pull out the color dimension in the dashboard, we will get the unique values over here, which will be like yellow, red, orange, and green based on the fruits available in the dataset. Again, it will be unique values over here since we will not have duplicate values over here. So if you want to answer a question like what combination of fruit types and color exist in the fruit basket, what all dimensions can we use? To represent what fruit types and color we have, we'll use fruit types and color as a dimension to answer the question. If you see over here, we have fruit types and the color as the second dimension. So apple in red and we see apple in green. So now we have two records for fruit type as two records for apple since color is two different colors for the same apple is available over here. So we'll not call it distinct, we'll not call this duplicate since it's a distinct row with the combination of fruit type and color. So it's a unique record again with the combination of two fields with two apples of two different colors. Now we'll see what is measure. We have the same data set over here answering various questions, which is how many pieces of fruits are in the basket. Choose the measure count will tell you how many pieces of fruit we have. So if we pull out the count column, it will say 12. How much does the basket of fruit weighs? So we want to find out the total weight of the fruits in the total data set is we will use the total weight, which is nothing but the summation of all the weight column from the measure from the data set. Total weight measure will tell you how much our fruit basket weighs. So combining dimensions and measures, how many pieces of each fruit type are in the basket. So this is like for number of apples or number of lemons or number of fruits available for each of the different fruit types. So we'll pull out fruit types and count. So this will again become a unique records here because we want to find out how many pieces of apples are there in the table. That will give you apple as 3, lemon as 3, lime as 2, banana as 2, and orange as 2. So this is how we do dimensions and measures combined together as a result. So what was the total cost of each type of fruit in the basket? How do we answer this kind of questions? So this is again easy. We will use fruit type with the total price. So total price of apple, it group it by apples column, apples record in the fruit type column, and it will give you the total price for each of the fruits. So here again we have the unique records. So using the fruit type dimension and the total price measure will tell you the total cost of each type of fruits. Now let's see how do we filter the dimensions. Same time we'll use the same data set over here. Dimensions as filter, filtering a dimension removes rows from the row data. So saying that if you're putting a filter on any of the dimension, we'll remove the data we'll remove the records while representing it into the dashboard. But to be very clear, it will not remove the data from the table or from the data set. It will just filter it out while pushing it to the dashboard or to your looks. Dimensions as filter, if you want to use how many of pieces of each fruit type are in the basket if we only include round fruits. So what do we do over here? We use the type dimension. So say, if you remember, we have a column called is round, which was a logical column which would say yes or no. So we can use filter is round on the is round column of the data set. And we can say is equal to and put a value as yes. Since it's a logical, it will only have data as yes or no. And when you apply the filter and run the query, it will give you only two outputs since apple and orange are the only ones tagged as yes. And the total count will come out as 3 and 2 for apple and orange. Any doubt here?
So
No.
in the filter we can use only dimensions, right? Not the measures.
We can use anything like measures. If you say we can use the measures also, saying if you want to use count should be greater than 5 or count should be greater than 4, we can use that also.
Okay. I mean, if I want to say, let's say the aggregation of that all the fruits should be greater than 50, something like that can be done.
No, that won't come over here right now because since it is not aggregated right now, so that can also be done only through LookML.
Okay, okay. It's possible, right?
Yes, always it's possible. Yes. So that is why this Looker has Looker and LookML. Since Looker has not been given all functionality or all free hands, so that's why LookML came into picture, and it makes the life more easier since it filters or restricts the data before even loading into the views and all. So LookML is mainly used for that purpose. Going forward, how many pieces of each fruit types are in the basket if I only include red and orange fruits? So how do we do that? In the if you know in the SQL we have in query, which is like in, and we can pass on multiple values to it. So this is same over here. We can use a color column as in filter and say is equal to, and we can pass on the hard coded values, which is orange and red. So it will give out results only where colors belongs to orange and red.
So this sort of GUI is available where we can select the column and the corresponding value.
Yeah, it depends on what filter condition do you pull out over here. Since in the last one you saw it was is equal to, and we have put yes only. So that was like we passed only one value to it. In the current scenario, if you see, we have passed out two values, orange and red. So it is like an in operator. So we can pass multiple values.
Mhm.
So there will be more different values to it. Like when you say color is equal to is just one parameter, there will be multiple parameters which we'll see going forward, like what all conditions we can put. So if we pass on a date to a date filter to the filter, it will have a different dialog, right? It will not have hard-coded values where you can type in the date because it might mismatch the value. So it will give you a date calendar options over there or a range column over there. So it depends on what dimension you pull out in the filter called filter section. You will get options based on that dimension.
Mhm.
So going forward, if you have put out color in the filter saying orange and red, you get only two records since we have only two fruit types as orange and red, which is apple and orange, and the total count of those fruits will be displayed in the dashboard. So when we say the filter on the filter on the dimension is first applied and then the data is aggregated. See, as you asked in the earlier question, the filter is first applied and then the aggregation is applied. So here we don't have that functionality right now that we can apply a filter on aggregated fields. So we are just applying filters right now on dimensions directly. Going forward, filtering on measures. So this is the same data set which we have, which will say as fruit types, color is round, price per pound, weight, and price. So which type of fruit has exactly two pieces in the basket? So when we say on the count column, we are just applying is equal to 2. So while loading the data into Looker creates some of the table again. So Looker does some of the aggregation by itself without even the user asking for it. So those are like counts and all. So since it is manually created or automatically created by Looker, we can apply filter on those particular aggregated fields only. So if you want to do something like average or the min or max, we cannot apply filters on those since it is not calculated over here. But there are other ways how we can do that that we'll see in the coming sessions. So count is something which has been automatically created by Looker when we load the data. So if we see it in the measure column, we can pull it out and apply a filter on that. So this is like applying a filter on aggregated fields on count, which is auto generated but not user generated. So when we say is equal to, so we are only counting or displaying out records where the total count of fruit is 2. So we get banana, lime, and orange. So which type of fruit has an average price that is less than 0.50? So if I said there are some of the columns which are auto-generated, so average price is again one of them, and we say is less than. So here, as I said earlier, we have different kinds of filter options. Is less than is one of them. So we'll have is less than, is greater than, is equal to, is less than equal to, is greater than equal to. So this is like same as we write SQL queries. So if we filter the average price measure is less than 0.50, we remove all the rows from the results that don't filter the filter logic. So any of the records which are not satisfying the filter condition will be removed out, and those which are satisfying will be displayed in the dashboard. So lime and lemon are the ones whose average price is less than 0.50. So those two are displayed out in the dashboard.
So, and actually in real live project, so what is being used? It's a LookML wherein you type in everything, or this GUI?
UI itself. In the UI itself, you will go to LookML. When you go to the development mode, you are switched on to the LookML mode. So some of the things which are not available in Looker, we do it through LookML.
Okay, okay, it's not like that, people jumps to directly LookML and typing and creating dimensions and all. They used to
No,
use
no,
UI. If not possible, then only
we
LookML.
have, yes, yes, correct. So we have to start with the UI of Looker itself. So you load the data through Looker, and if you want to do some other modification, create some new dimension, create some KPIs and metrics based on the client demand. Either we can use calculated fits also, and if that is not optimized, or that is not that is delaying your graph to be populated, people go for LookML dimensions and measures.
So all these measures and matrices, is it better to create in LookML or to store at the database side?
It depends. LookML, what it does, it filters out or does the calculation before even loading the data into the dashboard. So obviously it will be a little bit faster if you create those new dimensions or measures in the LookML side.
Mhm.
Yeah. So filtering and limiting data, if you see, filtering data is overview. If you want to see what is filtering, you can restrict the data you are viewing to items of interest by adding filters. So filters help us to restrict data based on our needs. You don't necessarily need to add a dimension or measure to your result in order to filter on it. Did you all get this point? The second point, you don't necessarily need to add a dimension or measure to your result in order to filter on it.
Okay. How come?
So this is like if I say, if I go to the last example, so average price. So if I'm putting a filter on average price, it is not necessary for me to pull out the average price while reporting the graph. It will only be in the filter section, but not in the select section, or if I say display section. So if you want me to write take query, I can write and so if you all are aware of SQL queries and all, like what
Okay, it is
is
providing filter on the aggregate one, but it is not displaying that. Okay.
yeah, like not only the
Having
aggregate
clause.
but for any other class. Yeah. So it's like select name, age,
Okay, whatever it comes in a having clause. Right?
gender from employee table. We put where city is equal to Bangalore. So what I mean to say is We don't need to include city in the select clause. We can directly include it in the filter clause. It was not only for aggregate functions or aggregate columns. It was just for any of the dimensions of measures. If we are putting a filter on any column, we don't necessarily need to pull it into the dashboard or to the looks. Clear?
Okay.
So for example, you can create a query that filters the order date to just the last 90 days, even though your query only shows customer and name of orders, right? So it is like select customer and number of orders from order table where order date is less than last 90 days from the current date. So we are not pulling out order date in the display section, but we are only pulling out customer and name of order. So this was the main point to be displayed over here. Going forward, there are several different types of filters. Those are basic filter, advanced matches, and custom filters. So what is basic filter? Most of the time you'll be using this type of filter only in your real-time world. In these cases, Looker provides appropriate drop-down list, calendar widgets, and text fields you can use to put in your restrictions. As we saw earlier, there was the in clause or is equal to where we can put out hard-coded values, which is called text fields. And if you see drop down list, so there are different type of filter options. If you go to that, you get a drop down list and you can select based on that, which will be like is less than, is greater than, and other options. So when does the calendar wizards come? If you pull out any of the date column into your filter column, into the filter section, you will get a calendar wizard, because Looker does not want you to input the date manually, because what if the date is in a different format, which is like YYY so, and if you put it in a different format, it will not match and it will throw an error, or it will not filter out any of the records based on your need. So this is what it is, basic filters. When we go to advanced matches, sometimes you will want to specify a filter with a more advanced condition for a field, like text search or a data range that starts in the past and goes to a certain number of days. You can often achieve your goal with this type of filters. So these are nothing but these are advanced filters, which we'll see in the next section. Now we have custom filters when you need to specify more detailed business logic, especially when you need to combine and or logic. We can use using lookup function. These are nothing but called custom filters. So now if you see on the slide, we have different filters presented over here. This is the one for basic filter. So for applying a basic filter also, we have multiple options how we can apply it. So if you see in the left hand side, the pickup wizard, which is the views and the dimensions visible. This is one of the options. We can just click on right click. We can just click a three dots on the dimension or measure and click the filter option. Click the filter button in the field picker wizard. The other option is when you have clicked out all the dimensions into your visualization or your data platform, which is created date, is first purchase and order count. You can click this setting wizard and you will get a filter option directly on the column level. The third option is click a dimension value to limit the filter to that value. So this was the second and this is the third option. After displaying a value, after the values are displayed on the data wizard, you can click on any of the values over here in the data wizard, and that will be considered as the filter restriction. Any doubt in this slide?
No.
No.
Good. Going forward, what is standard type of filter option? So this is the other filter option which we have seen earlier. So pulling out any of the columns, dimensions of measures, and putting it into the filter, saying if you see over here, order quantity, order count has been put into the filter wizard, which is greater than 100 or less than 50. We have also put an and condition is not equal to 41.8 or 224. So anything should not be equal to the order count should never be equal to 41 8 and 2 to 4. Why am I saying it should never be? Because it is in the AND condition. So when we say AND condition, it has to be applied. So this AND condition is clubbed with the other one, which is called OR. So is greater than or is less than. So either of these conditions should be followed. Either it should be greater than 100, either it should be less than 50. So if you see in the output wizard over here, we don't have anything which is less than 50 or which is greater than 50. Sorry, less than 100 or greater than 50. So nothing is displayed over here in between 50 to 100. Why? Because we have already instructed lookup only to pull out the values which is greater than 100 or less than 50. Nothing in between 50 to 100. Any doubt? I will take that as no. So this example includes all the created dates with an order count over 100 and below 50, not in between 50 and 100, and exclude all days with order quantity of 41, 8 and 224. So this is how we do custom. This is how we do the normal filters. Now, if I want to do the advanced matches filter, you can go to the filters. In that, when you drill down to the different filter types, you have is in the past. If you have created, see, if you have pulled out a date column into your filter wizard, you get different type of filter option, which is in the past, is on the day, is in range, is before, is on or after, is in the year, is null. So these are some of the filters which can be applied only on the date column, not on the numerical column. So your drill down will automatically change based on the data or based on the column or dimensions you are pulling out in filter wizard. So after this normal options available from the lookup, we also have a match advanced option where we can custom filter, where we can do custom filters. That means we can write our own filter condition, which are different apart from the default filter conditions given by lookup. So if you see over here in custom filter, what we have done, we are doing a difference of days between created date and first order date. So when was the created date and order date? So it is just like a subtraction between two columns, and that value should be greater than 60. So what we are doing over here, we are creating a calculated field and doing a filter on that. So this is like how we do a custom filter. As you asked earlier, right? Can we do a filter on aggregated fields like having clause? So this is how we can do it. So we can write any of the condition over here, the functions which are available, and then we can put a filter on that. So this is the general syntax over here. How we do? We write a function, start the bracket, and then we have a dollar sign, then the view name, and then the column name. And then we are doing comma since this is the parameter, since difference underscore days takes two parameter x and y. So this is x created date and the y is first order date. And then we put a condition, after doing this calculation the value should always be greater than 60. So when you put any of the custom filter, if you say div days, in the right hand side it will show you what all parameters are to be done, which is like start date and end date to do the calculation. So Looker will give you a suggestion in the right hand side so that you don't do any mistake or any error while adding a custom filter.
Can you explain it? You can see it is different days, right? And then you're mentioning, okay, so it will only, so it's for dimension only, right? Difference between two dates.
This example is for dimension, yes.
Okay, okay, okay. So it's not for the measure, right?
This,
Not for the aggregate value. It is just the difference between 2 days. And this is possible in GUI or from LookML?
sorry, come again.
Yeah, this custom one.
Yeah,
So is it possible in the LookML or we are doing it from UI?
this is from UI Looker itself. We have not gone to LookML right now.
Okay, okay, okay. Fine.
Yeah. So the dashboard which you all are seeing right now, or the filter custom filter, this is from Looker, not from LookML. The difference between filtering dimensions and filtering measures. Filtering dimension restrict raw data before calculation, right? For example, if you want to see how many orders were placed each day, you can create an explode that looks like this, right? And if you want to put a filter on this, then you decide you want to count orders above $50. You can add a filter on this, and you can say on order amount greater than 50. So what will happen? You will still see result for each day, but the order counts are smaller. All the orders that are less than 50 are removed from your data, and what remain is counted by the measure for each day. Any doubt on this?
No, no doubt.
Going forward, filtering on measure. This time add a filter on the order count measure to see only the days when you have more than 350 orders. You get this result. So now you pull out the order count and we see greater than 350. So all the orders are counted for each day and then the filter is applied. So in earlier section, what we did, we applied the filter and then we pulled out the result. Here, all the orders are counted for each day in the backend. It's like grouped by, and then the filter is applied on that. So the filter removes the days that has 350 or fewer orders, leaving the remaining days that has more than 350 orders. So now we have results where our order count is always greater than 350. So this is again like a aggregated filter, which is like having clause if you say. So any of the or any how many orders were done on 2018 11th of 9, right? So it does the group by on that, does the total count, and if the count is greater than 350, then only it displays out the result. Hope this has answered your question. When you ask like if you want to put a restriction on aggregated fields, right? So this is similar to that,
Mhm.
right? So what happens over here? We don't filter out the data in the first step, but we group it the data. The looker groups the data in the backside in the backend based on created dates. It gets the result, and then applies the filter, and then displays the result. Right? So in measures, it first do the calculation and then do the filter. But in dimension, it directly does the filter. So what is row limit? In your display section of your data, you can restrict your data to be represented on your dashboard. So if you see over here in the highlighted part, row limit is there, where you can put any of the number. If you say 5, so only 5 records will be displayed. So what is row limit? When you set a row limit, Looker will only display up to a total number of rows you have to set. Looker will warn you if you might be hiding data by setting a rows limit that is too low. The short order is important in this situation. Looker first applies the short and then applies the limit. So if you know about sorting is nothing but trying to sort the data into ascending or descending. So if you row limit and if you have a short option for any of the columns, the short option will be applied first and then the limit. For example, if you want to see the top 5 states for number of orders sold, make sure you are sorting the orders so that you can display out only the top 5. So this is like select start from this count sum of orders from employee table or the order table, where you want to do the top 5 selling. So you use row number over there, put the row number function and then put a limit on that, saying row number is greater than equal to 5. So this is something like that. Any doubt in this slide? Row limits.
No.
Okay. So how many rows you limit over here will be affecting your dashboard also in your visualization. Since you have done the row limit of 5, your visualization graph will also show only 5 records. So now you have column limits also. If you have added a pivot to your report, you can also apply a column limit up to 200. So this is the maximum limit. Since you have applied a pivot on the table, and if the table size becomes too huge, as greater than 200, the column limit will always be 200. Dimension table calculation, row table, columns, and measures table calculation outside of pivots are not counted towards the column limit. So if you see over here, Looker will warn you if you might be hiding the data by setting a column limit that is too low. Again, the sort order of your pivot is important. So if you are sorting any of the column, that is important, because Looker first applies the sort and then applies the limit. The same thing which we did over here, row limit and column limit. So first the sorting is applied and then the limit is applied. So if you don't have sorting, you don't have an issue. So for example, if you want to see the 5 most recent month when order is created, make sure you have sorted by the order created month. So here when you see created month, we have sorted the data based on created month.